Welcome back. We're here for another episode of Two Plain Sports, and this is a little bit of a special edition episode, just talking about some potential coaching candidates that the Sooners could hire for the defensive line coach and potential, in the cornerback coach. We're going to give a few names for each position that we think that would make sense and has some sort of connection and, some why, and explain why and our reasoning. And then we'll just kind of go in depth in what they bring and what they could. And we might be way off, but we have reason to believe that these list of guys that we're going to go over would make sense. But before we get into it, we just want to say we really appreciate it. We've been growing like crazy. You guys have been subscribing like no other. We've been seeing that you've been turning on that notification bell, but I know a lot of you still haven't. I've also noticed that a bunch of you guys have been coming back and watching our videos, but aren't subscribed. So if you are coming back for a second video, I figure at this point, you might as well just subscribe to us. But anyway, just comment, let us know what you think. If you agree with some of these guys as potential, coaches, and if you like them on the staff, or, maybe you wouldn't like them on the staff, and make sure to like that video. And if you hadn't already, turn on that notification bell. So we'll go ahead and dive right into it. We're going to go over the cornerback coach position first. So the first guy we'll go over is Jay Valet, which Jay Valet, and I believe I'm saying his name correctly. He's currently the Alabama Alabama cornerback coach. He's been on a few other rosters recently, a few stops at Rutgers and a few other places. And he's been, Alabama. Yeah, he was at Texas, and he's been at various other programs, a lot of stops in a short amount of time. I know he's with the Chiefs and Rutgers and Texas, and, just kind of has been kind of all over the place. But, he could also bring some experience and different perspective that he's seen from different coaching staffs and various other things. It seems like he might be, some Alabama fans are frustrated with him or don't think quite as highly of him. And part of the reason why we might think that it's one of these guys that we're going to go over still in the playoffs is because Brent Venables did an interview with News 9 in Oklahoma City, and he said they've got some big games coming up, and it's why these positions might be still open. Whether they're both open or just one of them still open for that reason, it's tough to say. But Brandon, you want to give your opinion on Valet and potential of him?
Yeah, no, he's at Alabama, so that defense looks pretty good. Passing defense is pretty good too. What I like about him, I think the most is he was an All-American multiple times as a player himself at Wisconsin, playing DB, and I think and not all that long ago, 2010, that time range. So I think he can, definitely relate to, these kids that we're recruiting and bringing in. And, he's been there, done that. And like I said, again, not all that long ago. So I think a lot of the players, the young corners and stuff will like him if he is the guy. And I think he can do a real nice job.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this dude. I mean, his coaching resume is good, but most of his stops are for 1 year, maybe two, and there's no real demonstration of like a recruiting prowess and development of talent. He got at Alabama, he came in, he already had Patrick Surtain, and then who was one of the best corners, if not the best corner last year, that was eligible for the draft. And then this year he has Josh Jobe. I think I said his last name right, but that guy's also very talented. So like, where's the development? Like, where can we see development from him? I personally don't see it, and maybe someone can correct me on that. But he can coach, but he can coach really good talent. Can he coach someone up to become a really good talent? I think that's where the question lies here for me. So maybe he could be useful at Oklahoma, but we would need someone else to really help him recruit, or maybe he's just really good at it and there's no trace of it because he's only staying at places for 1 year. So, double-edged sword there, I guess. But if he can stick around, I guess he could be a valuable tool. But I think as an Oklahoma fan, that's the last thing you want to see is someone just come here for a year as a stopgap and then go to another big program as a defensive coordinator or something. Because right now he's just a D-back coach at Alabama, or corners coach.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag in my mind is, I don't blame anyone for going and, taking a job or promotion or various other things. But sometimes when you're stopping for only 1 year, max of 2 years, and you're going kind of laterally in some scenarios, I don't know. But I mean, like you said, I mean, Nick Saban hired him. How bad could he be? I mean, at the end of the day, I can't sit here and question Nick Saban's judgment. He must believe in him. And, if he ends up being the Sooners coach, I mean, I would think this year with Nick Saban has to rub off on him and give him some, good insight on how to coach. Do you guys have any other comments about him or anything before we move on to the next potential cornerback coach? No. All right. So the other guy, and this is, the second one, and we're only naming two that could potentially be it. Another guy that's in the playoffs right now is Steve Clinksale. He's currently a defensive backs coach and defensive passing game coordinator for the University of Michigan. He was hired this year. He had a long stint with Kentucky, and they were ball hawks, and they played extremely well under him. And before then, I believe he was with Cincinnati in like the 2014, 2015 range. It seems like he's a little more, he's kind of the opposite. He's had some longer stays at a few spots, at least at Kentucky he did. He must have got a nice little pay bump and a promotion to go to Michigan. And he's been a part of the turnaround of Michigan, and they have been playing extremely well. And if anyone's been watching Michigan football, or if you haven't, you'll see it, in the next few weeks in the playoffs. That secondary, that they're solid, they're good. And I feel like the only way that Oklahoma could probably get him out of Michigan is the money. Since Brent Venables isn't making quite as much money as Lincoln Riley, they might have more to spend, and he might get another good pay bump to come down and play, coach for the Sooners. Jose, what would you like to say about him?
Yeah, this guy is kind of the opposite of Valet. He, like you said, he has a longer stint at a place, and he shows that he can develop talent. At Kentucky, he had his teams led, were if not in the top three, they led the SEC in turnovers or in interceptions. Sorry, and he coached a safety up to be an extremely talented guy. What is his name? Mike Edwards. He was drafted by the Buccaneers in 2019. And every year that he played for the Cats, he had 100 tackles, and then I think in a couple seasons he had double-digit interceptions. Definitely in one. Sorry, one sec. No, sorry. He totaled 10 interceptions in his career. Sorry, read it wrong. But so the guy was a good safety, and I think that would really help with a recent recruit that signed, Jayden Rowe. Everyone's excited about his potential being an Isaiah Simmons type guy who can kind of play all over the field. Having a coach like this paired up with Brandon Hall and Todd Bates, it gives him the potential to really roam around, be that Isaiah Simmons kind of player, and then Venables is still going to be there to help develop him. So this guy would be ideally the candidate I would hope comes over. But again, I think you're right in saying he's likely not coming over because he is a pretty high-ranking position, the defensive pass game coordinator. The only real promotion that Oklahoma could give him is a co-defensive coordinator / cornerbacks coach. And I'm not sure where that stands right now because we have one coordinator, and I could see Venables having co-defensive coordinators, but it seems like Hall would have probably gotten that position at this point because he's there, he's ready to establish a culture and all that jazz. But I mean, if we can get him and give him that promotion he's looking for and potentially a pay bump, that this guy is the ideal candidate in my eyes.
I definitely agree with Jose. Just his background, it's a little more refreshing if he were to be the guy, just because he does have that, on his resume where he's had, a decent stay at a school, specifically at Kentucky. 5 seasons at Kentucky, the team had 57 interceptions while he was there. And the secondary contributed for, I think, 43 or 44 of them. So, I mean, that's pretty solid. And like Jose said, in 2020, They had 16 interceptions, which was third nationally and first in the SEC. So not only it's I mean he showed that he knows how to definitely disrupt the pass games in the SEC, which is where he's headed. And yeah, I think he would be the much better candidate. And I think he also helps not only Jayden Rowe, but guys like Gentry Williams who are still waiting to see who it might be. I think he would be the ideal candidate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's cut, there's a bunch of talent up at Michigan and he's taken it to the next level and it seems like they've put it together. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to potential cornerbacks or defensive lineman coach? Sorry.
I think the only thing that could potentially give us a link to him is him coaching with Mark for such a long time. Maybe he built a relationship with Bob, and Bob can now connect him to Brent. But that's really the only way I could see there being a link there. Other than this guy is just interested in coaching somewhere else, which
he's a guy that's
kind of hard to believe.
And trying, because I mean, he would be a very impressive hire.
Yeah, definitely.
He would. I mean, there's a couple more teams still in the playoffs. Maybe their cornerback coach, but I have a hard time believing that. I think it's Joseph Adai or Jalil Adai at Georgia would be interested in being a Sooner, or in Cincinnati. I'm not 100% sure, but from what Venables saying that they still got some big games ahead, you would assume that he's still coaching in the playoffs. So we'll move on to the defensive line coach. First of all, we'll go over three. Two are still in the playoffs. One's not in the playoffs. So the one it's not really for sure. The first guy we'll go over is Sean Nua, another Michigan guy. I believe I'm saying his name correctly. He's a fast rising young coach that has been at Michigan just for a couple years now. He came from Arizona State and he was only there for a year as a line coach. And then prior to that, he was at BYU at Navy, and then he was at BYU. He played at BYU originally. So he went from, playing at BYU to being a coach at BYU and at the Navy, and now, Arizona State, now Michigan. That Michigan defensive line, if you guys have been watching, Aiden Hutchinson and various other guys, they have been getting after the quarterback all season long. They've been causing, creating havoc, and, he's a high up, fast rising up and coming guy. Another guy that I feel like, he has no real connection to Oklahoma other than Venables saying that has some big games ahead, or, and maybe needs a pay bump, because his salary is probably, I think, around $500,000 or so, 600,000. And, Oklahoma might be able to open up the checkbook for him. Brandon, what do you like to say about him in your opinion?
Hopefully he's pretty big in the development of Aiden Hutchinson, because that kid is going to be a top 5 pick, if not the top pick overall in this draft. I mean, he's doing absolutely freaky stuff. And if he, if New was a big reason for his success, then he, almost automatically would be a very good hire. He would help tremendously with guys like Reggie Grimes, Clayton Smith, stuff like that, coming off the edge. So I think that could be fun. He's also a guy who has, that playing experience. He played in the league for a little bit. I think he's just another guy that players can relate with. He's been there, done that. He won a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh. I don't know, his exact role or how active he was on the team, but I mean, he was on a Super Bowl team. Not a lot of people can say that. I think he, if he's the guy, I hope that, his playing experience and hopefully he develop players like Aiden Hutchinson, because we can do the same for us.
Yeah, I think Sean would be a great hire because of, again, it seems like he's at least an important part in development of some really, really talented players that have been at Michigan. My one, I guess, thing with him is it seems like he's more of a defensive ends coach or pass rushing coach. If you look at his top players coming out of Michigan, it was Kwity Paye, Aiden Hutchinson coming out this year, like you said, probably going to be a top 5, if not the number 1 pick in this year's draft. And at his other schools that he has coached, it seems like he really focuses on pass rushing and especially on the edge. And he's right now his title is just a defensive line coach, period. He's not specifically in one part of the line. And that's got to be a bit of a change coming from you're responsible for the entire performance of that defensive line. Sorry. And now coming to Oklahoma. All right, well, you only have to focus on this middle 2 or 3 that we have, depending on the package that's out there. So that will be different for him. I don't think that while it would be great to have him, I don't think he's really a likely candidate because of that. He wouldn't want to take less responsibility, I would assume. And he would also, we already have someone coaching the edges and outside linebackers. So, I mean, he is just really an entertaining guy to hope for at this point. And maybe he kind of helps bring up Coach Chavis to be a better coach, because this is his first time being a full-time position coach. So that, I think that would be the perks of bringing in a guy like Noah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be another, young guy, up and coming. I think it would fit the mold of what, the high energy type of guy that Venables is looking for. You guys have anything to add before we move on to another potential candidate? Now this might be a really long shot, and it's kind of a crazy even idea, but going off the idea, he's still got some big games ahead, and that's why you would think these guys haven't been hired yet. Is Georgia's defensive line coach and Trey Scott. Why would Trey Scott ever leave Georgia? He's been there since 2017. He was with North Carolina before. I don't even think I really even need to say what he's done at Georgia, because that defensive line is mean and it's ridiculous. Really, the only thing would be to get Trey Scott probably interested in Oklahoma would be that he's, played at Arkansas Tech, I believe. He's from Arkansas. Regionally, it's close. We're probably, this might be a stretch on this guy, but if there's enough money, coaches will move. So Jose, what do you think you have to say, or what do you have to say about him?
I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think this guy is more likely than bringing in Noah, because his responsibility and what he's done for Georgia now is develop the inside of that defensive line. This year, the last couple of years, really the biggest and best player has been the big boy in the middle. What's his name? I know I have it right here, but I'm sure you guys probably know it off the top of your head. Last name, I think, is Davis.
Yeah.
Heck is his name. I just read it on here. Sorry, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. This dude was making crazy plays in the middle of the season, making highlights all the time as a defensive tackle, which usually not a super common thing unless you're a dude like Aaron Donald, who's just kind of blowing up the line on all sides of the line. So I would expect Jordan Davis. Thank you. I would expect this guy to actually be someone that's open to it. Right now, his title is defensive line, but like I said, it seems like his focus has been the interior of the line. He's just an assistant coach, so he's not. So while he's probably important in how they develop the talent, clearly, since he's a position coach, it doesn't seem like he may have too much input on the actual game plan going into each week. So this would be a guy that I could see being interested in just maybe getting maybe a smaller title, like a run game defense coach / defensive line and interior defensive line coach. That'll put him in position to actually grow his career moving forward. And he focuses on the part it seems like he likes best in the defensive line, which is the big boys in the middle.
I agree with those. I think this guy's more likely as well. That same thing. I think coming to Oklahoma could be a promotion for him and beneficial for his career in the long term. Also, I think I'm just very excited about this guy potentially being the candidate, because if you look at what Georgia's defense has done, especially in the run game, and obviously it's not all him or, all the defensive line, but both 2019 and 2020, they have led the nation as far as rush yards per game allowed, like in the low 70s, like that. I mean, and, they're playing against the best of the best and, Alabama's and stuff like that. And they're still holding people to 70 yards rushing a game. I think I speak for all of us when I say I think we'd be very much excited if he was the guy.
Yeah, no doubt. And maybe I'm doubting it, but like you said, maybe he gets another title promotion, a little more money. Um, that like you said, that might be the next step for him to become a defensive coordinator. So do you have anything to add before we move on to the last guy? And now this one I feel like is still a stretch. And if it was going to happen, it should have already happened, is Todd Bates. He's Clemson's defensive line coach. I think we all thought that whenever we saw Thibodeau and Kane both leave, we we figured that Todd Bates would be the guy just because of Venables and him and their relationship. But Bates has been there since 17. He recently got a promotion. I know he's co-defensive coordinator, I believe now. He got probably a good pay bump. I have a hard time believing he's going to leave now, because if it was going to happen, it probably would have by now. I don't know though. So do you guys have anything to say about him? His resume also speaks for itself.
Yeah, well. I agree with you. I mean, I think when we talked about a couple weeks ago, he was the guy I think I definitely preferred, just because 2019 Rivals Recruiter of the Year. Obviously very familiar with Brent Venables, has done some really good things with Clemson, and obviously in recruiting if he was named 2019 Recruiter of the Year. But I tend to agree with you with that Venables connection that he already had. Clemson's not playing in the playoff or anything. I feel like if he were the guy, it would have been done by now. I feel like Dabo did what was necessary to keep him, knowing that he's already lost Venables. He's gonna want to keep that second best probably defensive coach on the staff, and he probably made sure whatever you need, take it, stay.
Yeah. The more time goes on, the less likely it seems. But I also think about it on the other hand. Brent isn't a guy that's really looking to take anything from Clemson. So if Todd was gonna move, it would be after bowl game, because they have that loyalty to Dabo. So I see both sides of the coin here. I just don't like it. At this point, he would have to have a lateral move and an increase in pay to want to move to Oklahoma. Because like you said, I think you're right that he just got a promotion to co-defensive coordinator. He would, or at least need to be assistant head coach like his previous title was before Dabo left. He would probably still want to be very heavily involved in recruiting. He's currently the recruiting coordinator for Clemson, defensive tackles coach. So from one perspective, I see why some people still believe he's very much a candidate for the job. And he would be a good fit because it seems like Venables is just, it was his system in Clemson clearly. So he's just, he knows how to coach under Venables. The thing is, loyalty to Dabo, making sure that they're not severing any relationships there, which I'm completely fine with. I don't think that they should risk that, because at the end of the day, that's going to go a lot further than trying to poach people away from Clemson. But then we also, again, have the other side of the coin. Well, he has to have, at the end of the day, these guys have been preaching loyalty, and we want to have a good culture. So we're not going to take them right before the bowl game. So this would be an announcement that literally would have to happen as the bowl game is concluding or the next day.
Yeah. And I want to correct myself. It wasn't co-defensive coordinator. It's assistant head coach, assistant to the head coach. So I just want to clear that up. I knew he got a promotion.
To the regional manager.
Yeah. Assistant to the regional manager. Do you have any final thoughts out of either one of you? Brandon, do you have a end of video challenge?
Yeah, no, for sure. So no matter who the coaches is going to be, I think we listed, 5 candidates today that realistically could end up becoming the coach, in a matter of a couple weeks here or so. But regardless of who the coach is going to be, I think we're all in agreement that the defense is going to be improving. We trust Venables, who he's going to hire, and we're moving on from Speed D. So the challenge for this week will be Speed D sucks.
Speed D sucks. Perfect. All righty. Well, if you made it this far, we really appreciate it. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you hadn't already, turn on that notification bell. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2Plain Sports, and you can find us on Spotify if you don't like looking at us, which I don't mind you. I don't blame you if you don't want to look at Brandon. But anyway, we really appreciate it, and we hope you guys enjoyed this one. We've got more great stuff coming up after Christmas, and a lot of moving parts still. We still got the Alamo Bowl coming up, and make sure to go check out our preview if you hadn't already. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.